And I feel like a lot of people are on multiple meds and they're like, you're not as damaged as I was when I tried to come off. But I feel like I've had a good amount of damage to my nervous system, and I was only on one, and I was only on 10 milligrams, which I think is like an important story because so many people are like, you were only on one and you're on 10. That's a low dose, but it's really not at all. And I think that's really important for your listeners to hear is it's way stronger than you think.
Mainstream mental health is flawed, and I'm pulling back the curtain. I'm Andrea Clark, a former family therapist who walked away from the system to expose the truth. After my own journey from medication maze to holistic healing, I'm here to challenge the status quo and reveal the mental health truths most people don't know. The truth about mental health is your radical roadmap to wellness. Raw stories, expert insights, breakthrough solutions. This is where traditional modalities end and real healing begins. I'm so excited to welcome Amanda Burnett. She is a 30-year-old nurse who experienced one panic attack while being a brand new ICU nurse and was put on 10 milligrams of Lexapro. She's been tapering off for over 2 years and has quite a long time to go. And when she discovered how difficult the tapering process really is, she started sharing her journey and education on Instagram and TikTok to spread awareness. So many people go through this and have been harmed by these medications. They're all suffering in silence. And this has inspired her to make a significant impact through talking about this, spreading the word, and sharing educational and advocacy content. And we had the most incredible conversation, super real. She gets into all sorts of challenges that she has experienced and also amazing healing that she has experienced through this tapering journey. I cannot wait for you to hear from her. Let's dive in. Amanda, I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so I cannot wait to dive into this conversation about just your story, about how you even got started on medication, because I think it's going to be so powerful for people to hear your story specifically. Because I think that people make an assumption that when their practitioner tells them, hey, you need this med, they don't always feel like they can ask questions, and meds are usually the first defense, right? And not a lot of things are explored. And so I'd love to just start with, tell us a little bit about your career, because I think probably the stress from your career does contribute to how we even led to where you got, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's start there. Tell us a little bit about what you do and all of that.
Okay, so I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for about 7 years. I started my career in the ICU, so like cardiac ICU, which was like the sickest people go to the unit that I was working on. And I started that. It was my first week there. And backstory also leading up to that, throughout college, I started noticing my anxiety was getting really bad, but I was also eating awful. I was drinking all the time. And then I also was newly on birth control and Accutane, which both can impact your mental health, which they literally give you warnings about these things, but I took them anyway because I was just naive, So I was already feeling my anxiety getting way worse. Then my brother passed away unexpectedly in 2015. And then 2017 is when I started in the ICU. And that first week in the ICU, I was an absolute mess. So I had told all my friends and family, I'm starting the ICU, thinking I'm so cool that I'm starting as a brand new nurse in that cool unit. I have been a people pleaser my whole life. I hated about myself, but something that definitely led to me being put on Lexapro. Started in the ICU, found out that it's actually terrifying. And I was so scared that I wasn't gonna able to fill that role of kind of like the badass nurse, all the girls around me, they were all doing their job so easily. And I was so terrified that first week. And so and it was almost kind of like the nurses eating their young a little bit when I first got there, because they could tell how anxious I was. Anybody in the room could tell how anxious I was. You could just see that. So as part of like one of my exercises, I was kind of thrown into this room and the patient behind me was crashing, like not doing well at all. There were doctors, there were nurses, there were respiratory therapists, and they're like, draw up like the life-saving medication for this guy. And they were giving me all these orders. The doctor was yelling orders behind me. And I just had never happened to me before. Now know it was a panic attack. I stopped being able to hear like what people behind me were saying. It was all muffled. My heart was racing. And it was to the point where people around me knew something was happening, but like I had no idea what just happened. So then I was sitting in the little orientee room with the educator and she's like, what happened there? And I was so embarrassed. I was so like, that little girl in my head that just like wanted to be perfect because I was always a perfectionist growing up, was like, you are so stupid. How could you let yourself do that? Like I was so critical of myself. And I was so embarrassed that they had seen me acting that way or looking that way. Because I had always been such a strong person up until that point. So I was like, I can't believe I let my guard down and people saw it. So then that night I went home and I was like bawling because they were basically telling me like, I don't know if you're going to make it on this unit, which to me, looking back, I'm like, why did I not explore other units or like take that as a sign? Like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. But for some reason, I had to keep proving people wrong. And I'm like, I need to do something about this so that never happens again. And so that's when I literally went, I'm pretty sure the next day, to a PCP that I had never been to before. And I told her what had happened. And I kind of went in with the assumption that I was going to get something. I was like, I need something so that never happens again. And then that's when I was put on Lexapro in like a 5 to 10 minute conversation. And I'll never forget what she told me, this PCP, which kind of made me be like, I need this medication. She said, it sounds like you've been anxious for so long that it's turned into depression. That's what she told me. And I believed it because I was 22 at that time.
That's very interesting. A very interesting connection she made. I'd be curious to understand it better. But I mean, I know anxiety and depression can go hand in hand, but
yeah,
there's anything that you just shared that I would make that connection myself, for my own mental health. But of course, hearing something like that is going to make you think like, maybe I need this, right? That's so wild. So a couple of things. First of all, and I don't live in the nursing world at all. I have several good friends who are nurses.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you were being hazed a little bit. Like you said, eating your young or whatever. Like there's this it's kind of like, we're going to toughen you up real fast type of situation.
Yeah, exactly. Which I guess in a way is kind of needed in that field. So
yes, but like, I mean, the first couple days, like what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty intense. Like,
yeah. I don't know. And then I did get prescribed it and I was able to go into work and kind of like, I felt like Superwoman at the time. So I get when people are always coming to me like, this medication helped me so much. I never would have been able to do this, and this without it, because it did help in the beginning, but it turned on me in the next few years. And that's like a big part of my story, is like not just trying to come off of this, but the way it changed me in so many negative ways. And I didn't even like realize until now that I'm coming off and I'm like, I can't believe that made me that person. And like, I did not know when I was on it for 6 years. Like I was so blind to so many things. And that's what these medications can do to you.
People don't understand like at all.
No.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because, this idea of people getting, first of all, nobody's saying for each individual person, if it works for you and you're really happy with being on SSRIs, like nobody's attacking you. Cool. There is a whole world of people out there who don't want to be put on one, who have had a lot of negative experiences with it, who feel that they're not listened to by their practitioners and they're just being offered a pill and they know that that's not going to get to the root. They know it will put some wallpaper over the mold, but that the mold is still there. And so these are the people who we are talking to, right? We're not talking to the person who feels 100% rock solid, A-okay with being on medication. Like if you do, that's amazing. Like nobody's dissing on you. Nobody's giving you a hard time,
No,
right?
I agree. And like I said, I liked it when I started. I thought it really helped me. And like me and a couple of my coworkers, like they're like, which one are you on? I'm on whatever. But I feel like now we've crossed over like wanting to tell somebody that it might be a good idea to like full on glamorizing these medications in a way that's like not safe. And I think it like these influencers I see all over TikTok they're literally promoting these medications. People with millions of followers are like, I take this. They're like shaking their little pill bottle. And I'm like, that's great that it works for you. But also there's like little girls and young girls and boys in these comments that are like, what's that? I feel like I want to try that. And it's like, they don't get the risks when they're looking at that video.
Yeah, that's actually really insane to me. When you told me that when we were chatting, I was like completely appalled.
Yeah. And don't even get me started on Live, Laugh, Lexapro. If I hear that one more time.
Is that a saying? Live, laugh, Lexapro?
Yes.
Shit, that's really bad.
On TikToks. And then I was just recently in Colorado visiting my best friend. She had a baby and we were in this college store in Boulder and they had stickers of pill bottles all over the store, like not just in one spot. It was like all over the store. And they said Live, Laugh, Lexapro on the pill bottles. And so they're like making merch. And I actually saw I forget the account name, but she makes merch and she made like bags that say huge letters, Live, Laugh, Lexapro.
Oh my gosh. That's insane to me.
Yeah. And then people, like I made a video about it on TikTok and I got a lot of comments saying there's a stigma. And I'm like, I mean, maybe there used to be, but in my opinion, there is not a stigma anymore around it. I don't think so. I think it's being openly talked about, openly glamorized, and it's dangerous.
I think it's really dangerous too. Because it's already dangerous enough that Big Pharma is allowed to do direct-to-consumer advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have like influencers glamorizing this. And that just makes people think that this is the option.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this influencer uses this and they're like pretty or they're fun or they have this amazing life. Like maybe this is going to give me this amazing life or whatever. You know what I mean? People oversimplify. And wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And they don't see that person down the road, like 5, 6, 7 years later, how they're doing. Because what happens, as you know, a lot of people are hitting tolerance with these medications where it works so well in the beginning and then it just stops. And so you start having all these symptoms. Like me, I started having all these health problems and I kept going to all these doctors. I was like, what? Like, it must be me. Like, I'm an unhealthy person is like what I would tell myself. But then I start to taper off and all these symptoms go away. It's like, okay, that was absolutely the medication doing those things to me.
Yeah, my husband has been on a medication. He was put on it when he was like 15 or 16, and he has tried to taper off twice, and it's pretty rough. It's really rough.
Yeah.
Also, and his goal is to do that eventually under supervision of somebody. But he definitely has some challenges from the medication that he knows is from the medication. But when he tries to taper off, it's like a nightmare. And so he has to like be mentally ready for it. And our family has to be ready for it because you know what I'm saying? And so we're like working towards that, but it's like he's a prisoner to this medication.
I call myself that all the time. I said, I feel like I'm a prisoner to pharma. And I think that's a good point you made about like kind of preparing and being at a good point in your life when you try to do this. Because if you have like a super busy schedule with like kids and work or something, like big things coming up, I would not recommend starting a taper off these medications because it takes over so much. I have so many women that reach out to me and they're like, I stopped taking it when I got pregnant, which is a huge thing that I hear. And like, I just can't imagine. I don't have kids, but I cannot imagine preparing for the most like exciting time of your life and then being thrown into a psych med withdrawal. I can't. And then there's all these symptoms and they're probably, I would assume they were like guessing, is this from being pregnant? Are these symptoms from pregnancy? So I'm sure it's like difficult to kind of distinguish. But then so many of these medications are dangerous to take while you're pregnant. I'm learning now. I've heard a bunch of new research coming out lately.
Yeah, they are. It's intense. So, okay, it helped at first. Why? Why did it help? Like, were you more detached? Like, tell us how you felt.
Yeah, I definitely just felt like I could go to work without like the dread and anxiety. And because a lot of people that came in, they were in like obviously ICU critical condition. So like I would get like an admission with a really sick person and I'd be able to actually like think straight and be able, because you really cannot be having panic attacks at work when you're trying to take care of patients that are that sick. So being like a little bit anxious and being like full blown having panic attacks obviously are two different things. So I definitely did get a little bit of anxiety when someone would come in. Like I still felt that a little bit, but I was way more like centered and able to focus. And at the beginning, I feel like I still had my personality. Like I was still joking with friends and being happy and still doing things I like to do. But then it like turned into, over the course of like probably 3 years, it was all these things popping up. I got very angry. Like I became the most hateful, mean, frustrated, like irritable. It makes me want to cry thinking about how I was then. And you can ask anyone I worked with because it was getting to a point where this probably started in like 2021. So it's like, it wasn't right away when I first started the med. It took years for this to happen. And I was like, well, I've always kind of had issues trying to regulate my emotions based on my childhood. So I would like blame it on something like that. I never thought it was the medication, but I would like my coworkers, they'd ask like all the time, are you good? Like, because I would just like snap at any little thing. And I was night shift at the time. So I was like, is it because I'm not getting enough sleep? Like, it's just the amount of times I gaslit myself when I had no idea like what was actually doing these things to me. But yeah, I don't feel like that anymore. And I'm just so thankful that I don't, because it was terrible.
That's really interesting. Have you figured out what the mechanism was? Or are you just like, I don't know, it was just a side effect?
I think it was just a side effect, but I know now after doing research, another thing I developed was severe ADHD that I never had before in my life. Like to the point where I was on Adderall. What'd you say?
I wonder if it was like dopamine issues.
It was. And
then I talk about that a lot for him. Like it's and I can't say scientific, like I can't articulate all perfectly in this moment because I'm doing a lot of research on this too, but it seems like there's some issues with dopamine that end up happening over time.
Yes. And that I actually found an article that literally that said that. But I have to find it and I'll have to send it to you. But it talked about SSRIs impacting dopamine. And like I make posts about this on my TikTok and I've gotten like comments like, you can't just randomly develop ADHD. I'm like, well, I did and now I don't have it anymore. So that leads me to talking about the clinic I went to, because I feel like I'm not saying everyone needs to go to this clinic I went to. I'm not even going to name it, but it's a huge part of my story. And if I didn't go to this, I would literally still be on Lexapro 10 milligrams and I wouldn't have tapered. I wouldn't have like changed my life. So I went and I knew something was wrong with me. Like, that's why I always tell people, listen to your own intuition. You know when something is not you, and you know when, like, I would literally shock myself, like saying something. And I'm like, I can't believe I just said that, but I didn't know how to fix it. So I was in Washington State on a travel assignment. I drove 3 hours like around, because I was like all the way at this side of Washington. I drove all the way to the other side by Seattle to go to this clinic because they do a lot of brain health stuff. They did a brain scan. It's called a SPECT scan. I don't know if you've heard about that. But it wasn't the SPECT scan really. Well, the SPECT scan showed that I was having a ton of issues with motivation and focus. It was so many things. It was literally like my brain was highlighted in all these places. It said, you have this issue, you have this issue. So I have literal proof that these things were happening to me and a whole report that talks about it. And the thing that they kept saying to doctors when they were reviewing my stuff, they're like, you're taking Lexapro, which makes your frontal lobe sleepy. They kept saying it. They said it like 3 times. And I thought about it and I was like, like I knew it decreased my anxiety, but I didn't know anything about making a part of my brain sleepy. So then I kind of ignored that for a few months, ended up going on Adderall. It made me even angrier. It didn't help me with concentration. So I stopped. I was like, this is making me feel like not good. Like worse.
And anxiousness are a disaster, like for people's nervous systems.
Absolutely. And especially when I was already having anger, I was already having frustration. It was just fueling the fire. And then, so that didn't work. And then I tried Vyvanse. That didn't work. And then I was on a virtual call with the psychiatrist who actually was at the clinic that I got my brain scan at. He's in California, actually. And I was like, how about we just try stopping the Lexapro and seeing if that helps? Like, they would have never said that to me, Andrea. Like, I would still be on it and I would still be so miserable. And I just thank God every day that they said that and that I try, even though it has been disastrous at some times because of withdrawal journey. I'm still so thankful that I basically woke up out of myself and was like, let's try this. Because if I didn't, I probably would have been a forever patient and kept going down that spiral. So almost immediately when I started tapering, I noticed differences in like being able to focus and stay on track during a conversation. I would be talking to somebody and I would literally look up at the sky. Like if I was out to lunch with one of my friends in Florida, and I will never forget, like I could not focus on her when I was talking to her. And I would always say, what was I saying? Like I lost my train of thought all the time. I was having memory problems as like a 27, 28-year-old female. And I have Alzheimer's in my family. So that was freaking me out. That has all stopped since I've started to taper. And I'm not even all the way off yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is incredible. So how has this taper journey been for you?
So when I started, it wasn't that bad. Like 10 down to 7.5. I had symptoms, but they were doable. And then once I got down to like 4 milligrams, that's when I tried dropping from 4, because I ended up staying at 4 milligrams for a whole year after I got the liquid. Which if anyone's listening to this, you're trying to taper, you need to get the liquid if your medication comes in it. It makes it so much easier to just be like more patient led where they can do it themselves. If they're not tolerating, they can just easily kind of go up a little bit to see if that feels better. And also people try to cut these pills and it just doesn't work. Like I was taking a pill cutter from the hospital I worked at the time, and trying to cut it, and you get a different dose every single time. So it's not doable. So then I held at 4 milligrams for a year. Then last July, so it's been almost a year now, when I dropped from 4 to just 3.6. That's all I went down, like 0.4. And my body, like it hit me a few weeks later. So it wasn't right away. So I didn't know it was coming. And I just, like complete nervous system crash. I developed POTS, which people don't know. It's postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. There's so many symptoms that go with it. Tachycardia is one thing. I still to this day, it's been a year, and I can't lay on my left side when I'm trying to sleep at night because like my heart is constantly having palpitations. And it, like, in my opinion, it's a brain injury because I see things that like I used to work with in the hospital with patients that have brain injuries, and I have a lot of the things like heat and cold sensitivity. In the winter, I have to have a heater on my feet at all times. And it's not just because I'll be wearing like 2 pairs of socks and I need a heater. And then in the heat, like I can't handle, it makes my POTS symptoms 10 times worse. So I'm like constantly changing my thermostat, constantly taking off sweatshirts, putting it back on. I developed auditory hallucinations at one night. I will never forget this. I heard like screaming that clearly was not there. It was just a made up sound. For months, I woke up with this like popping noise in my ears, and I would just wake up at like 3 a.m. with that. And I live by myself. So like this stuff is like really freaking scary for someone who's living by themselves. And I don't even have a dog. I have a cat, but he's not very helpful. And a ton of food sensitivities and intolerances. I can only handle like 4 foods. I'm doing keto carnivore right now. And it's been helpful because I was pretty much having to do that anyway, because anything that I previously was able to eat, I would eat, and I would develop like this rash around my eyes. And then I would have to like run to the bathroom. I never used to have gut issues like I have now. So yeah, it's just been, there's so much there. I have a whole list of like probably 70 symptoms that I've developed. But every time I hear someone tell me more and more about like what they've experienced, it just like, it breaks my heart because I always hear worse symptoms. And like, I'm thankful that I'm not bedbound because I could be, but I'm not. I work from home now, so I'm able to like lay on the couch on days that I don't feel well. So yeah, I'm currently right now I'm at 3.29 milligrams, and it'll take probably like around 600 days is what my coach told me, to get off. So that'll be a total of almost like between 3 and 4 years of tapering, which is just insane. And I'm a nurse, and I had no idea that this could ever happen. So,
well, what do they tell you? I mean, they tell you that you're more likely to have to stay on it. Like, there's all this, but they make you think it because of you, not because of it.
right. It's never the medication's fault ever.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you know the reason why it might take you another 6 months? Like, did they explain why?
So I'm on like I switch. So like there's a couple methods when you're tapering, and I was trying so hard to do the thing that's called the drop and hold, where like you drop your dose a little bit and then you hold for 4 to 6 weeks and then like basically tough out the symptoms until they go away and then you start it again. It's honestly hell. Like it really is. That was not where it was.
I didn't do it. That's what I would do. Like, that's my person.
No, like I don't know if you can hear that thunder. Sorry. But so no, I couldn't handle it. I would try so hard. So this last April, I tried to go down 0.1. That's it. Like literally that decimal point. And I developed akathisia where I was pacing. The akathisia is awful. And then what was the other thing? Acrophobia started to come back. So like I felt like I couldn't leave my house. I'm like the most outgoing social person. I never had the fear of leaving my house until I was put on and try to come off this medication. So I'm now doing something that actually works for me. It's a micro taper, but it's all these calculations. I'm essentially being my own pharmacist. I'm mixing it in a urine cup that like I would give to someone in the hospital. Like that's what I'm having to do. And just based on the schedule I'm on right now, that's how long it's going to take. But if I end up going a little bit faster, it might take less. It's just some people, it takes them years and years and years. It's either that or they just like people I've been asked, like, why don't you just stop and suffer through it? That's not recommended because it can lead to protracted withdrawal where you have those symptoms for years. And that's not something I would wish on my worst enemy.
So I don't know if you know this about me, but I was on Paxil.
I call it Pax Hell.
Do they? So I was put on Paxil as a teen. And I was on it for several years. And in my freshman year of college, I was like, I don't want to take this anymore. I don't think it's helping me. Like, I don't know, intuitively. But I didn't tell anybody like a dum-dum, but I just took myself off.
Oh my gosh. And I feel like so many people do that though, because they just don't know.
They don't know. And I will say that I had a nightmare of freshman year. I mean, it was already hard. Like I went away from home. Like there were other things. But I remember I literally just slept. I slept and slept and slept and didn't feel good and had migraines, which I was already prone to migraines. I had a lot of migraines. There's probably more that I experienced that I just don't remember because it was this was a long time ago. I'm 42 now. I was 19 and a lot was happening my freshman year. But I literally just would go to class. I'd make it to class, come back, and I would sleep and have head and migraines and sleep and have migraines. And I gained a bunch of weight and there was so many things. And I will say that I was very emotionally dysregulated those first couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really hard. It was really hard. And there's probably more that I experienced, but I didn't know to equate that to that, right? Because I was just doing I didn't want to tell anybody because I had been put on meds as a teen and I didn't want anybody meddling in my shit anymore. You know what I mean? And I was away from my family. So I was like, I'm just not going to take this anymore. Like, this isn't helping me. I didn't know.
Still, at least you knew it wasn't helping you, because I feel like so many people, they're on it and they just stay on for life and they don't even question it. They're just like, well, must be helping. And that's the thing is, every time I don't know why I didn't try to come off sooner, when I realized that if I was late picking up my prescription, I felt so off. Like I felt like my brain was like outside of my body. And I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I need to get my medication and take it. Like, and as a nurse, sorry, keep going.
No, I was just saying, it's the same with my husband. It's almost like, it's like a dependency.
It absolutely is. But like, I was so like, I don't know if I was so emotionally blunted, because it did do that to me eventually, that like, I just didn't have any drive to kind of explore that further, or like,
what? Yeah, I mean, you ever shame yourself for that? Like it's like how we all have these journeys, right? And there's things in my life too that I look back and I'm like, I had this inkling or there were clues, but I wasn't paying attention to them. And it's like, you'll never know why. Like it's, you know, it's so hard because there's so many factors that go into these things, right?
And I have got people that message me and they're like, how can I let myself stay on this for so long? Like this medication, they'll say to me, like, this medication is poison. Like, why did I stay on it for so long? And they're like beating themselves up. And I'm like, I know it's easy to do right now because you're seeing like what it could do to your brain and stuff when you're going through like withdrawal. But we had no idea like that this could have caused this. We were not told, like, and it kind of really grinds my gears on my social media when people will comment and they're like, all medications have side effects. There's a leaflet you can read. I'm like, there is nothing that warned me about this. What could happen when you try to come off?
Because they don't even know. Because most medications are studied for 2 to 4 week periods. They were never meant to be taken for freaking years and years and decades like that. Like, so how are they going to know that you might develop POTS when you come off? Like they don't.
Right. Well, I was actually talking to someone and that I know that actually he was working with me in the hospital at the one I first started at. And now he's like a cardiologist, I'm pretty sure. But I was texting him when all this was happening. I was like, have you ever heard of SSRIs causing POTS or whatever? And his immediate response was, it was so disheartening. What did he say? He said, you could have developed POTS when you were on the SSRI and the SSRI was masking it. Because he's like, SSRIs usually help with POTS and are prescribed for POTS. I'm like, I can't even believe that it's being prescribed for POTS when it caused mine.
But why would it be prescribed for POTS? Because POTS...
I don't know. And that's another thing is they're prescribed for so many off-label uses. And now it's like, it's not even just anxious individuals or depressed individuals. It's like, what's a big one? OCD and menopause is a big one I'm hearing lately, is like women are being thrown SSRIs during menopause.
So I used to get chronic migraines and I was on Tope.
Yes, that's another one I hear is migraines. And there's one girl I talked to, she's like, I would take my headache back at any point. Like, if it meant I didn't have to go through this. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine going on one of these for headaches and then experiencing this. I just can't.
Yeah. And you know what's like a light bulb's going off for me as we're talking because I'm off the I'm completely off the Topamax. But I'm like, man, I've been going through a lot of because I've probably been off the Topamax for 6 to 8 months. And I was on Topamax for years. And so I probably am having, some withdrawal that I don't know is withdrawal.
I didn't like, what are your symptoms?
I'm also in perimenopause. You know what I'm saying? And so it's hard to know what is what. That's part of the issue. Yeah.
And I've had people gaslight me and tell me that
sleep has been significant because I've really struggled with sleep off and on over this last year. Or like
that is huge in my withdrawal. There was, and I hear from so many people, is the insomnia. Like, are you waking up throughout the night a lot?
Yeah, and or at the 4 hour mark.
Yes, like 3-4 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, well, but not always, like sometimes it's 2 a.m. because sometimes I go to bed super early and it's easy to think that that's cortisol or like but my hormones are balanced. So like I'm working with a practitioner for my hormones. And so I can't blame the hormones. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what the F is this? Like, why? I have a very healthy lifestyle. And I'm like, what is the freaking problem? So I'm going to go research some things. But see, I could totally shame myself for not putting 2 and 2 together right now. And it's kind of like sometimes we don't have the space to put 2 and 2 together because we're busy sorting other things out. And when we're ready, right, to put 2 and 2 together, then we will, so that we can take our next action step. So I really try not to shame myself too much because
and don't.
You know, and sometimes I'm like, why didn't I think of that? But I'm like, maybe I wasn't ready to process that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're going through all the health stuff too, so you're worried about like trying to get that in control, and you're not even. A lot of people don't even think about that.
Yeah, and so I just want to say the same for you, and like even the people who come to you, it's like it comes to light for you when you are ready to deal with it and process it, right? Like trusting our intuition. Sometimes we set aside a piece of information for our own protection in the moment because we need to get some other things in order first to even be able to deal with that piece of information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's interesting you brought up perimenopause and menopause because that is like one of the top comments that I get on. There's this one TikTok I made months ago, and it's just me listing every symptom like off that list I was talking about. And so many of the comments were like telling me I was going into menopause. I'm like, I'm 30 years old. And when this all started, I was like 28. So it's not that. But like people are just wanting to like make it like what they think it is. But like I said, you know your body. And like that's all I'm gonna say about that.
It's hard. It's hard because for some reason people take it personal. People take it personal. I post about certain things on my platform, like, you know, over functioning and my marriage and things in my marriage, and women get really upset, and so do men, like as if I'm personally attacking them. And I'm like, if this doesn't resonate with you, it wasn't for you. Do you understand? And so it's understanding too that people are trying to make themselves feel like they're not adjusted enough to understand that, wow, that's somebody else's journey. Like I see stuff all the time that I'm like, that's not for me, but I can put it into a framework of like, that's the journey they're on. And even if I don't maybe fully agree with like whatever their synopsis is, it doesn't matter because that's for them. That's not for me. And people get so triggered, like as if they're not secure enough in their own identity to understand that like, if you feel like that's good for you, then it's good for you. Like whatever, right? Nobody's going around looking to be like, who can I poke today? Who can I make feel bad about their choices? It's not like that. But people feel that way. And it's like, okay, maybe you have some more healing to do.
Absolutely. And that has been so hard for me to like reframe my mindset about like negative comments and stuff. Cause I've only been posting and stuff for like a year. It has not been long. And meanwhile, I'm like going through this taper. And I'm just like trying to hold on for dear life and also post my story. And then people say things that it really does like trigger me sometimes. But I've learned to just like you said, like you don't know what people are going through. And I was the angriest person. I was the person who like just a few years ago when I was on my full dose, like I was talking about how angry I get. Misery loves company. And I wanted everyone around me to feel as badly as I felt inside. And so I would like be mean. I would literally be mean. I would, especially like in 2020 when all those like the craziness was going on, I let it just like take over my whole life. And now I'm like, I'm just going to sit back and just kind of watch and be happy. And like, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. And I've learned to just ignore them and just be like, they must be going through something and nothing I say is going to change that. So,
okay, so this is my little petty comment that I'm going to do is this is what I say. Thank you for boosting my posts in my mind. I'm like, thank you, because every hater, do you know what they're doing? They're boosting it out to get to more people who need your story, who need your message. So I'm always like, thank you. Thank you
for boosting my engagement.
opposite of what you wanted to accomplish. You just pushed my message out to more people. And I found it funny because I'm like, the thing that you want to happen, which is to kind of shut me down, you're actually amplifying me right now.
Yep.
So I'm like, thank you, Hater. I really appreciate for you.
Oh, I wish you could see some of the comments I get on TikTok, especially. They're terrible.
I'm sure. I used to share a lot about my mom rage. I'm past that now, so I don't share about that as much. Like, I've evolved. But some of the stuff people will say to me, sharing very vulnerable, real stories about things that I had to work through with mom rage, the horrible things that people would say to me about like me or my being a mom or how could I, or, like I'm an abuser, all this crazy shit. And I'm just like, all right, man, you just are missing the point of all this, aren't you?
Yeah. You could be doing the best thing in the whole world and somebody's still going to have something negative to say.
Totally. And people do like to be mean because they're so...
Yes, exactly.
And they like to be mean. It's a real thing and it's really sad. And I am just really grateful for you that you share your story so openly because
Thank you.
I need to hear this. Like, I can't wait. I'm going to text my husband and say, you have to listen before it even gets published. Go into Riverside. And he has access to all this. Go listen to Amanda's story. Like, people need your story, right? People need to hear other people's stories and to give them and like just a starting off roadmap, right? That, okay, I can do this too if I put my mind to it. And there is support out there and there are people who are doing what I desire to do. Like, we need people like you in the world. And so keep going, sister, like keep going. You are so important and your story is so important for you and for everybody else.
Thank you. And I feel like a lot of people are on multiple meds and they're like, you're not as damaged as I was when I tried to come off. But I feel like I've had a good amount of damage to my nervous system and I was only on 1 and I was only on 10 milligrams, which I think is like an important story because so many people are like, you were only on 1 and you're on 10. That's a low dose, but it's really not at all. And I think that's really important for your listeners to hear is it's way stronger than you think. So.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, like we don't need to be comparing. Okay. Yeah. So it's like if somebody wants to get off, we want to get off or they don't. And whether they're 3 or 1 at what's considered, it's all like everything's relative. And I think that again, this goes back to people trying to gaslight themselves and gaslight somebody, into, well, I can't because, and it's like, listen, you can do anything if you're willing to with the right support. It could be living hell for a while, but you can, you know what I mean? And I think that sometimes people don't want to take responsibility for their choices, even if they made a choice with the information they had at the time and the vulnerability they were in at the time. But at the end of the day, nobody's going to do it for you. And that's something that I used to talk with my clients about a lot. And now I have coaching clients and it's kind of like, and how I approach my own healing is that I might have made a decision from a victimized place at the time, but now I have different information. I get to decide, do I want to continue or do I want to choose a different path? And even if the path is hard, like it's my responsibility to do X, Y, and Z. So it's okay to be mad and it's okay to say that happened to me and that wasn't my fault. But now I know and it's my responsibility to make a change if I want my life to look different. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
And people don't want to do that. Some people do not want to do that. They just want to be upset or say, I can't because and our world allows for a lot of that. Like our world doesn't empower people to ask questions and investigate why and take responsibility for their own well-being. That's a huge part why I do this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think nowadays everything is about convenience and like your life being the easiest it can possibly be. So I think a lot of people, they try to make this like change and like, whether it's like their medication's not working, but it's just, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to go through it, which I get because it's so hard. But at the same time, there is a way to do it. It's a safe way. And there's such a big community that's there to help if anybody ever does go through this.
So this is another piece of it that, I mean, there have been points in my life where I've made the convenient choice. Like, that's just,
Yeah, me too. And me too.
listen, I mean, and so we live in such a microwave society, and it's only getting worse with like AI and all this stuff. And hey, I use AI in my business, but like it's getting worse and it's very concerning to me. My husband and I were talking about it just yesterday. I was like, my best friend and she was visiting, and I said, when I needed to know what a word meant, my grandma would say, okay, go look it up in the dictionary. And I'd like, go get the dictionary and I'd open it up and we'll have to find it. And then I'd read it out loud and we talk about it. And now I'm like, Alexa, blah, 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 blah.
Or Chat GPT.
And it's so we have to actively be our own advocates for certain things and understand that, like, what are the pros and cons of these convenient solutions, whatever they are, right? And sometimes we might use the convenient solution, but having the knowledge and asking the questions of like long term, what are the ramifications of me saying yes to this, what we consider a convenient thing right now, as opposed to maybe taking the longer road that's more uncomfortable, that might cost more, that might require me to slow my life down or whatever it is, right? And change my lifestyle, these different things. And I think that in our medical system, people aren't given those options. The convenient thing is like the number one thing. We still look at the white coats as gospel, right?
Yep. And they have all the answers, and they really don't have all the answers. Like, they don't even know about how bad withdrawal can get.
So listen, I'm going to say, and I might actually do a podcast on this. I think I might record a solo episode on this. And no diss on my daughter's pediatrician. I mean, I wouldn't have a pediatrician if I didn't have an ex-husband who is like, requiring this of me. I would probably only go to like a holistic, like whatever. But, he and I have very opposing views at this point in time on all sorts of stuff when it comes to medical stuff and pharma and vaccines and all sorts of different things.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. But so I have to make compromises that I wouldn't normally make because I share her, right, with him. And it is, but we just found out recently that my daughter has the MTHFR, like several mutations. She has the COMT. She has 2 mutations with COMT and like some others. But my bigger concerns right now are the MTHFR and COMT. And I was getting these I'm like, she's starting to have some attention issues. I'm like, and then she has some other stuff. I'm like, I'm wondering if methylation's a thing for her. And so we got the test, all that. I took the test and I wanted some blood tests because I've been doing crazy research. I probably have a PhD in this now. Figure this out, right? For her and for my family, myself. And I was like, oh, I need these couple blood tests, right? I read this book from this doctor who like treats people. And, I'm like, okay, let me see if her pediatrician will give me this blood test or what these blood tests to find out homocysteine, right? Histamine, like BB levels, all this stuff. So I take it in, I take the report in to back me up, all this stuff. She was super amazing about it, but she had no idea what I was talking about. And in her defense, she's been practicing for a really long time. She's very old school, and I was grateful that she was open. Like, she took a picture of the book I brought and she's like, I'm going to read this. She asked me if I could help her come up with a protocol for one of her patients who has autism and is having all these other symptoms. Now, granted, she knows I have a professional background, whatever, right? It's not like I'm some rando off the street, but it really opened my eyes. And I already knew this, but it just validated that I know that doctors are not up on the most innovative or new science, medicine, things that are coming to light. They don't keep themselves like in the know about these things. They get their, CEUs or whatever they have to get. And even when I was getting CEUs, there were things that I was learning about in my like health coaching world that was not being introduced in my CEU world as a professional, even though it would directly affect mental health. So CEUs and education is even behind. Do you know what I'm saying? In that. So you have to personally seek it out as a professional to be more aware of like new research and new data. And you have to be somebody who wants to read that stuff, because you can get away with practicing for decades and decades and never being up to date on the majority of that stuff.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And even just nursing CEUs, you're able to just like click through and just like scroll through really, really quickly. It's not like mostly you don't even have to like go through and read all that stuff.
Yeah, every year I was required to I'm going to be totally honest with you guys right now, okay? Every year I was required to take an ethics CEU. Do you think that I sat through the ethics CEU every single year? No, I let that shit play and then I took my little quiz. Because I had already done ethics, so I just felt like, and maybe that makes me a jerk, and it is what it is. But
No.
I'm like, I don't need to listen to this again. And if I had that disposition about that, how many practitioners have this disposition about these types of things, right? Where it's like, I know what I'm doing. I know what works. I know this. Like, I don't need to like dig into new research. I don't need, when I went and saw my neurologist, and I don't even see one anymore because I've pretty much almost completely healed my migraines. She didn't know what cranial sacral therapy was, and I was kind of shocked. And I'm not saying that practitioners have to know everything, but I'm like, this has to do with your brain and your head. And like, I'm like, this is weird. You're a neurologist. Like, how do you not know what that is? Like, in my mind, I'm like, this is weird. Like, what?
I feel like anything natural, they don't really know about. Like, they know what procedures and surgeries and what meds. That's pretty much it. And I'm also learning that the doctors, I thought, like, being an ICU nurse, I used to like look up to doctors and like praise them. I thought they were checking interaction of meds when they're prescribing. Like, for example, if someone's on Lexapro and they're put on like Wellbutrin, Prozac, and whatever, like, they're supposed to be checking the interactions between medications they're putting you on. And I've been told by several people that they don't check that. And so many of these meds can interact with each other, especially like when it comes to heart stuff, like serotonin syndrome and things like that. And a big one I hear is Lexapro or any other SSRI with hydroxyzine. That's one I hear all the time that people are like paired with, because I was actually put on hydroxyzine with Lexapro. It basically felt like a strong Benadryl because it's like in that antihistamine property category. But basically those two together are not supposed to be taken together because it increases the risk of like QT prolongation in the heart. So like, but it is prescribed like that together all the time. And I'm like, that's just insane to me that doctors are not checking that, because that is the most important thing in my opinion.
They don't understand interactions or like the compounds or the chemistry, right? They're given a matrix of like, oh, these symptoms, you could have them try this, this, and this, right? Like these different medications. Whereas a pharmacist understands how things interact. And so, but I know that they have things like a booklet and things they can research, a library, right? Or a database that tells them, don't pair this with this or don't. But it's like, that's not even in their mind because that's not a part of their wheelhouse.
No, and pharmacists are not catching that either when they see that patients are on them together.
Mm-hmm. It's really, there has been such a heightened level of negligence. It's crazy.
Especially because they're getting busier and busier with just the demand. And I feel like ever since COVID, people have gotten sicker and sicker. So they're getting busier and busier and they're having not enough time, especially if you're going to someone who's covered by insurance. They only have a set slot number of minutes they can stay with the patient for.
Anxiety, mood swings, brain fog, hormonal chaos. Before you blame stress or just being a woman, have you checked your mineral levels? Minerals are the foundation of your mental health and hormones. Magnesium, zinc, copper, and iron control everything from your mood and energy to your cycle and stress response. But most women are walking around depleted, and they don't even know it. Here's the truth. Birth control, stress, and even pregnancy can drain your minerals, leaving you feeling anxious, exhausted, and out of balance. But no one's testing for it. When I got tested, I found several key minerals were significantly out of balance, even though I eat well and I take excellent care of myself. It was a wake-up call that changed everything for me and my health. You don't need to just deal with it. You need to get balanced. A simple at-home mineral test can give you real answers, so you can stop guessing and start healing at the root. Check out hormonehealingrd.com and use code MHM20 for $20 off your test today. You can also check the show notes for links and codes. Tell us, okay, for somebody who has been told, you know, it would be a good idea for them to go on an SSRI or mood stabilizer, whatever it is, right? And they haven't done it yet because they're still in this contemplation stage. Piece of advice, or what maybe couple questions could they ask to help them make a better informed decision?
I would say ask about withdrawal, but a lot of doctors don't know like the full story. So I would do research. I would look up Dr. Mark Horowitz's work. He's a psychiatrist from the UK who brought a clinic to the US. He went through psych med withdrawal really bad. So he went in and started researching all this stuff. He is like the single most talented up there researcher when it comes to all this. He's made like YouTube videos. He has a book. I actually have it right here called The Deep Prescribing Guidelines. Just do research on your own about that and just know that withdrawal is a possibility. Is it going to happen to everybody? No, but it's a big possibility, especially if you're on for a longish period of time, like longer than 6 months. So I would definitely just do research about that first. And then also ask about interactions if you're on any other medications, and then ask, how long do you expect me to be on this? And like, try to have like a game plan, because I never had that. And it was almost like I was put on it and the expectation was to just stay on it. Like there was no like check-ins or anything like that. I wasn't required to go to therapy and do other things. So I would just, I don't know, try to have a plan and just know that these meds can impact you long term. Just know that, because I did not know that. But also think of natural things you can try first. And I don't just mean exercise. Like I tell everybody, try acupuncture. If you're having really bad anxiety or depression, like, or try saffron. You can take it to supplement that can really help with depression naturally. I was told these things, but it was too late. I was already like in withdrawal when I was told to like try these things. But acupuncture has literally helped me so much. The point of acupuncture is literally to stabilize your central nervous system. And it has helped my symptoms so much. Like as somebody who literally has a damaged nervous system, it has really helped me. So I can't even imagine like how much it would have helped me back then when I was 22 and having so much anxiety. And also look into diet, because if I would have changed my diet back then, I think it would have helped tremendously. I'm not saying you have to go keto, carnivore, but that is literally a brain healing diet. So if you want to try that short term, you can try that, or just try whole foods, cut out all processed foods. I don't drink caffeine anymore. I literally had to cut out everything, and it's really helped me. So I would just try to start at the basics first. And then like, obviously if something else is happening that's like impacting your everyday life. Like I know some people do need medication, but just have a plan on how long you're going to stay on that.
Yeah, I interviewed somebody, she's a psych nurse practitioner, and she's like, you know, the way that she uses medication is just almost like a bridge, a very short-term bridge at very low dose while they're doing the healing work and making the lifestyle changes, if it's even if
that's good.
And I don't know what I think or feel about that, but I do think that people don't understand that we have a body chemistry. I'm not talking about chemical imbalance. I'm talking about a body chemistry that if you are not nourishing your body and your brain the way it's supposed to be nourished, of course you're going to have symptoms of insomnia or anxiety or depression.
Exactly.
This really, people sometimes think that I oversimplify mental health, and I'm not oversimplifying it, but it's like, if you don't have the foundational things in place, you should not be going on medication. That is my very strong opinion. If you don't have the foundational things in place, if you're not getting sunlight, if you're not eating nutrient-rich foods, if you're eating processed foods, if you're jumped up on caffeine all the time, if you don't have like a healthy sleep rhythm and sleep habits, right, for your circadian rhythm, if you haven't gotten your hormone panels, mineral analysis, like toxicity, these are all like foundational things for your body and your brain to function optimally, then all you're doing is putting wallpaper over a root issue that you haven't addressed.
Yep.
Of course,
That's a perfect way to say it.
Yeah, and I just personally do not think people should be offered medication if all of those things haven't been looked into and balanced out. And I'm not saying you have to live a perfect lifestyle. Like, that's really hard to do in the world we live in. But if you at least can live like an 80-20 lifestyle, your mental health will dramatically shift. And that doesn't include like root healing work, things like acupuncture, things like clearing trauma somatically, right? Like even cutting off relationships or putting back, like that doesn't even include that part that will dramatically improve your mental health as well.
Yeah. Look at all the things you're listing that are not medication.
I know. There you go. You're welcome, you guys. So, but there's so much, and people don't understand that they have the power to do a lot of like self-healing or kind of getting themselves back into balance with just like some very fundamental life things.
Yeah. Yep. And I did not check any of that stuff before I went on.
Well, and how would you know, right? You were 22 and you were in the medical field yourself and you had somebody you trust tell you that you need to be on it.
Yeah. Thank you for validating that.
Absolutely. Like, how would you know? You know what I mean? Like, really, how would you know?
I think the hardest part, not really withdrawal, that's like its own thing, but like the hardest part for me is thinking back. That's pretty much my whole is just gone. And like, I can barely even remember. I remember, like, it almost feels like it's just blank. Like, my whole 20s, I'm like, where did that decade go? Yeah. And, like, I think back and I'm like, I feel like if I wasn't on that, I would be married. I would have kids. Like, who knows where I would be now? And, like, that's just so crazy. Like, I think back and I'm like, I can't believe that that basically ran my life for 10 years, 8, but...
I imagine that you're having to do a lot of like forgiveness work, right?
Yeah. And like, I'm so proud of like who I am now, but it's almost like, I feel bad. Like it's something like every day I'm like looking back, like, cause on Snapchat, I have like the memories thing. And so every day I like see, I'm like 2 or 4 years ago, whatever, it'll come up and I'm like, and I just look so different. Like I look different. I sound different. I'm not proud of like the person I was. And it wasn't even like my fault really, but I have like shame about all that stuff.
It's hard. And I just want to encourage you, like you couldn't have done or chosen anything different. You chose what you chose with the information you had, and as soon as you got that intuitive download and you felt like you had enough of the next different information, you made a different choice. And so just give yourself grace, but I get it. We all do that to ourselves. Kind of like, I should have known, or how did I not figure that out? And it's really like victim blaming ourselves.
Yeah.
Listen, how would you have known? You wouldn't have.
But the positive is I look at life in a totally different lens now. Like every day I'm like so thankful for the day. And I'm like trying all these new hobbies. I'm like basically reinventing myself. Like it's really what it is. It's insane.
Yeah. That's exciting.
It is exciting. It is.
I'm excited for you. I'll have to have you back with like an update in 6
like
months.
Post taper or something.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll follow your journey. Like maybe we'll record every 6 months or something to see
where I'm at.
That would be really cool, I think.
That would be awesome. I would love to do that.
Okay, cool. Any last thoughts for anybody in your position where maybe either they want to taper off or they are in that process and they feel, very alone?
Well, first of all, you can follow me on Instagram or TikTok. I feel like I'm pretty good at answering messages for now. I don't know if that's going to change as like it gets bigger, but That Functional Nurse is my handle. But also there's so many communities. I highly recommend, it's going to sound crazy, but the Facebook groups have been what have gotten me through personally. Like any medication, there's a group about it. There's one about Cymbalta. It's called Cymbalta Hurts Worse. There's like 40,000 members. So if you're trying to taper Cymbalta, go there. I actually know the person who runs the group. We like meet on Zoom every other week. But anyway, there's a bunch of like nonprofits that are coming up that are amazing. I'm actually a part of one. It's called Antidepressant Coalition for Education. It's antidepressantinfo.org. And if you are going through withdrawal, please report. It's a plug for my nonprofit. You can go to that website and then click report now. If you've gone through SSRI withdrawal or SNRI withdrawal, please report your story to the FDA MedWatch program. We're actually trying to get the labels on the medication bottles changed. It's actually in process right now. But the more people that submit their reports, the petition is more likely to go through. So it's not taking away the meds from anyone. It's just warning people that protracted or long ongoing withdrawal is possible when you take these medications. But also as for like where to go, Inner Compass Initiative, Laura Delano, she has ran that for years. It's a website, as well as survivingantidepressants.org. Adele Framer has had that for years since she started tapering like several years ago. Those are all great forums and people are like, why don't you just go talk to your doctor? Like I said before, your doctor most likely does not know what you're going through, and don't let them gaslight you. If you are going through this, you know your body, you know what's going on. So I recommend going to the people who have been through it, who can help coach you, because there are people who can help you. There are ways to get through it safely. If you're having awful symptoms, it's most likely because you're going too fast, and there are ways to taper much slower that can get you off of the medication safely.
So they can lead you to some other resources of trusted people who can support you in the process.
Yes, and there's a couple clinics that have opened in the U.S. Outro Health is one of them. Dr. Mark Horowitz brought that from the UK. It's only in like 8 or 9 states right now, but it's rapidly growing. And that's remote services. And then Taper Clinic with Dr. Yosef. He's great and has a team of coaches that can help. That can be expensive though. But those places can help you get a doctor that'll help you safely taper.
Amazing. You've just given us so many incredible resources. I'm so grateful for this conversation. I can't wait for everybody to hear it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next episode. I am eternally grateful you tuned into The Truth About Mental Health. If this message matters to you, please spread the word by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and sharing with someone who needs this knowledge. Let's keep reclaiming our mental health together.